Rain drizzled softly outside the massive glass windows of JFK Airport in New York, forming shimmering streaks beneath the neon lights. Inside the terminal, the air was thick with announcement echoes, the sound of rolling suitcases, and hurried conversations between passengers. Maya Jackson, a 32-year-old black woman, sat in the waiting area at gate C-17, her hands tightly clasped together, eyes flicking over the screen of her phone. She wore a navy blue wool coat, her natural curls tied back neatly, projecting a professional yet approachable demeanor. Maya was en route to Chicago to attend a tech conference where she hoped to persuade investors to back her startup, a mobile app designed to help underprivileged children access education. But her mind wasn't entirely on the presentation she had spent a week preparing. Her 7-year-old son Noah was at home with his grandmother, and every time she left him, Maya felt a hollow ache in her chest. She rechecked her phone, hoping for a message from her mother, saying Noah had eaten dinner and gone to bed on time. Instead, a notification from Marcus, her ex-husband, lit up the screen. "We need to talk about Noah. Call me back." Maya frowned, her finger hovering over the screen, then pausing. Marcus, with the smooth tone of a successful attorney, always knew how to rattle her. Since their divorce 5 years ago, he rarely reached out unless it was to exert pressure about custody. Maya took a deep breath, trying to push the worry from her mind. She wasn't going to let Marcus ruin this important day. "Terrible weather," a warm, deep voice said beside her, pulling Maya from her thoughts. She looked up and met the gaze of a man seated a few chairs away. He appeared to be in his late 30s, white with neatly combed light brown hair and striking blue eyes with an intelligent gleam. His tailored gray suit hugged his frame, but the gentle smile on his lips carried a friendliness unlike the aloof business people Maya was used to encountering. "I bet this flight's getting delayed," he continued, pointing at the overhead screen where the word "delayed" flashed next to the Chicago departure. Maya offered a faint smile, uncertain if he was trying to make conversation or just passing the time. She replied softly, "I'd be surprised if they don't cancel altogether with this rain." The man chuckled, a smile that lit up his whole face. "I'm Ethan," he said, leaning slightly toward her and extending his hand. "Ethan Caldwell." "Maya Jackson," she replied, shaking his hand. It was warm, firm enough to show confidence, but not overpowering. The name Caldwell sounded familiar, though she couldn't quite place it. Maybe from a business article she skimmed online. They began chatting initially about the weather and the inconvenience of delayed flights. But when Ethan asked where she was headed, the conversation became more interesting. Maya told him about the tech conference and her app, and her eyes lit up as she spoke about her goal of improving educational access for kids. Ethan listened attentively, nodding occasionally, asking sharp yet unpretentious questions. He shared that he worked in real estate, but didn't go into detail. He mentioned he was also headed to Chicago to meet with some partners. They discovered a mutual love for science fiction as their conversation shifted to personal interests. "Have you read Dune?" Ethan asked, his eyes lighting up. "I swear that book changed the way I think about business strategy." Maya laughed, her first real laugh of the day. "I have, and I agree. The way Herbert constructs alliances in the book is brilliant. I've applied some of that thinking to how I manage my team." Ethan tilted his head, clearly impressed. "You're a leader, Maya. I can see that." His compliment made her a bit shy, but it warmed her heart. It had been long since she'd felt truly heard in a conversation. When the announcement came that their flight was delayed by another hour, Ethan offered, "Would you like to get some coffee? There's a small cafe near this gate, and I swear they make better cappuccinos than any machine here." Maya hesitated. She didn't habitually grab coffee with strangers, especially not with a man who looked like he'd stepped out of the cover of Forbes. But something about Ethan, genuine in his eyes, A humility in his tone made her nod. "All right," she said, standing. "But if the coffee's terrible, you're taking the blame." Ethan laughed. "Deal." The cafe was tucked into a quiet terminal corner with wooden walls and soft golden lighting. They sat across from each other at a small table, steam rising from their cappuccinos. The conversation continued, shifting from books to movies, and eventually to personal stories. Maya spoke about Noah, how he loved drawing, and always asked questions about the stars. She didn't mention Marcus, though his message still lingered like a shadow in her mind. Ethan shared that he grew up in Boston in a middle-class family, and his mother taught him perseverance. He said she worked 2 jobs to raise me, his voice dipping. "I owe her everything." Maya nodded, touched by the sincerity in his words. She wanted to ask more, but her phone buzzed again. Marcus. Her heart beat faster as she looked at the screen. "Excuse me, I have to take this," she said, standing and walking to the corner. Maya Marcus's voice was smooth but cold. "We need to talk about Noah. I want him to spend more time with me." Maya clenched her phone tightly. "The custody agreement is explicit, Marcus. You can't just change it on your own. Don't jump to conclusions," he replied confidently. "I'll be in Chicago next week. We'll meet then." The call ended, leaving Maya standing there breathing shallow. She returned to the table, trying to force a smile. Ethan was watching her, his sharp eyes sensing the energy shift. "Is everything okay?" he asked. Maya hesitated, then chose not to hide it. "My ex-husband," she said quietly but firmly. "He wants to change the custody arrangement for my son." Ethan leaned forward, eyes never leaving hers. "Are you all right? If you need someone to talk to, I'm here." His offer caught her off guard. She wasn't used to leaning on others, especially someone she'd met 2 hours ago. But something about Ethan, his calm, quiet concern, made her want to trust him. "Thank you," she said, her voice softer. "I'll be okay. It's just complicated." Ethan nodded, not pressing further. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled a business card, and slid it across the table. "Call me if you need anything, even just another cup of coffee." Maya picked up the card, her fingers brushing over the words, Ethan Caldwell, President Caldwell Enterprises. Now she remembered that he was one of the youngest billionaires in real estate, and he was once featured in Forbes. But the man sitting across from her wasn't the glossy image from the magazine. He was grounded and sincere, which unsettled her more than she expected. As they parted to board the plane, Ethan looked at her, his eyes hinting that this wasn't the last time they'd meet. "See you again, Maya Jackson," he said, a faint smile on his lips. Maya smiled back, but once seated on the plane, she couldn't stop thinking about Marcus. His message hung over her like a dark cloud, threatening to eclipse the light Ethan had brought into her day. She clutched the business card in her hand, wondering if this meeting had truly been fate or just a fleeting calm before the storm to come. Amber yellow light from wall-mounted lamps bathed the red brick walls of the small bar in a warm glow, creating a space that felt intimate and mysterious. Soft jazz played from the speakers, blending with the clinking of glasses and the quiet hum of conversations from the crowd. Maya Jackson stepped inside, her navy blue wool coat slightly damp from the rain outside. She glanced around the room, her heart beating faster as she thought about the call from Marcus that morning. He had called again, his voice smooth but sharp, requesting to meet at the weekend to discuss Noah's future. Maya had declined, but his parting words, "You can't run forever," Maya still haunted her like a warning. She took a deep breath, pushing the worry from her mind. Tonight wasn't about Marcus. She was here to meet Ethan Caldwell, the man she had met at JFK Airport last week. Since the flight, they had exchanged a few messages, brief conversations, but enough for Maya to sense his sincerity. When Ethan suggested they meet in Chicago, she agreed, though part of her wondered if she was stepping into something too big, too dangerous. Maya spotted Ethan seated in a quiet corner near the window, looking out onto a street shimmering with lights. He wore a white button-down shirt, tucked casually into slacks, the sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms. A glass of whiskey sat in front of him, and when he looked up and met her gaze, a soft smile lit up his face. "You're here," he said, standing and pulling out a chair for her. "I was worried you'd change your mind because of the rain." Maya smiled as she sat the warmth of the bar, pushing away the chill outside. "Rain doesn't scare me off that easily," she replied teasingly. "But I'll admit this place is nicer than I expected. Good pick, Caldwell." Ethan chuckled, his deep blue eyes twinkling with amusement. "I know a few worthy spots in Chicago. This one has great jazz and even better whiskey." He signaled to the server, then turned back to Maya. "What would you like to drink? Red wine?" Maya said, then quickly added, "But nothing too expensive." "I don't want you to think I'm taking advantage of a billionaire." Ethan laughed, a deep, genuine sound. "Am I the show-off type? I want you to be comfortable, Maya." The server brought her a glass of wine, and they began talking. At first, the conversation remained light about the tech conference Maya had just attended, her startup project, and Ethan's upcoming trip to London. But as Maya's glass reached halfway, she realized she was relaxing, forgetting her worries about Marcus. Ethan made her feel heard, not just through thoughtful questions, but with his eyes. He looked at her as if she were the only person in the room. So Ethan said, leaning forward, "How are you holding up after the past week? I remember you mentioned your ex-husband. Is everything okay?" The question made Maya pause. She set down her glass fingers absent-mindedly, tracing the stem. A part of her wanted to keep Marcus out of the conversation, as she usually did, with anyone she didn't know well. But something about Ethan, his calm, his unassuming concern, made her want to open up. Not exactly okay, she admitted, her voice soft but steady. "Marcus called again this morning. He wants to meet and talk about Noah, my son. He's talking about changing the custody arrangement, but there's always an ulterior motive with Marcus." Ethan frowned, his gaze sharpening. "Motive? Do you mean he wants control?" Maya nodded, feeling a small weight lift from her chest. "Marcus isn't the kind of man who does things out of emotion. He's a lawyer, calculated. When we divorced, he barely cared about Noah. Now suddenly he wants to play the father. I don't trust him." Ethan listened without interruption, slowly rotating his whiskey glass in his hand. When she finished, he tilted his head, his voice low but sincere. "Do you want me to be there? When did you meet him?" The question caught Maya off guard. She looked at him, searching for a sign that he was just being polite, but Ethan's expression was serious, as if he'd fly from New York to Chicago at a moment's notice if she said yes. The thought of having Ethan by her side when facing Marcus was comforting and terrifying. She was used to handling everything independently, from raising Noah to building her career. Relying on someone else, especially Ethan, felt like gambling her independence. "Thank you, Ethan," she said, her voice softer. "But I need to handle this myself. Marcus, he's my problem." Ethan nodded, though there was a flicker of worry in his eyes. It was as if he wanted to say more, but he held back. "I understand," he replied, "but if you change your mind, that business card still works." Maya smiled, a warm feeling spreading in her chest. They continued talking, and when the topic turned to Noah, Maya's eyes lit up. She shared how he had drawn a picture last week, a star-filled sky with the scribbled words, "For Mom." Ethan smiled and revealed that as a child, he once dreamed of becoming an astronaut, but his mother had brought him back to Earth with a simple line: "You need to learn math before you fly to the stars." Ethan's story made Maya laugh, and in that moment, she forgot about Marcus, forgot the pressure of the conference, forgot even the curious glances from other patrons at the bar who might be wondering what a black woman and a white billionaire were doing sitting together. But the peaceful moment didn't last. Maya's phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with Marcus's name. She stared at it, heart pounding, then hit decline. Ethan noticed the shift in her expression. "Was it him again?" he asked, voice low. Maya nodded, trying to keep her tone steady. "He doesn't give up easily. But neither do I." Ethan leaned in closer, his eyes locked on hers. "You don't have to fight alone, Maya. I mean that." His words struck something deep inside her, a part she had locked away after years of doing everything alone. She wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe this man with his genuine smile and unwavering eyes truly cared. But another part of her, the one Marcus had hurt, whispered that trust was a gamble. She offered a faint smile and changed the subject. "Tell me about London. What will you be doing there?" Ethan recognized her deflection but didn't push. He told her about the trip and a new real estate project, and the conversation continued until the bar began to thin out. When they left, the rain had stopped, leaving sparkling puddles on the sidewalk. Ethan offered to drive her home, but Maya declined, saying she had already called a taxi. "Stay in touch, Jackson," Ethan said, standing under the streetlight with his hands in his pockets. "And if Marcus gives you trouble, call me." Maya nodded, a swirl of emotions in her chest. Excitement over Ethan, fear over Marcus, and a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to face everything alone. As the taxi pulled away, she looked out the window and saw Ethan standing there watching her leave. She wondered whether this encounter was the beginning of something real or just a spark of light before Marcus dragged her back into the darkness. Back in her small apartment, Maya stepped into Noah's room, where he was fast asleep, a book about galaxies resting on his chest. Gently, she removed the book and pulled the blanket over him. Looking at Noah's peaceful face, she felt a new surge of determination. Marcus might be a threat, but she wouldn't let him take away the most precious thing in her life. And Ethan. She wasn't sure yet what role he would play in her story, but she didn't feel entirely alone for the first time in years. The brilliant golden leaves of autumn stretched along the street, where the Maple Leaf Cafe nestled quietly among a row of small shops. Pale sunlight filtered through the large window, casting a soft glow on the rustic wooden tables and the countryside paintings on the walls. Maya Jackson pushed the door open, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingling with warm waffles briefly easing her tension. But that feeling quickly vanished when she spotted Marcus seated in the corner booth. His expensive gray suit fitted perfectly, black hair, slicked back immaculately. He was reading a newspaper, but his sharp eyes lifted the moment Maya approached, as if he had sensed her presence before she spoke. Wearing a beige sweater and jeans, Maya pulled out a chair and sat down, trying to maintain her composure. She had been mentally preparing for this meeting for 3 days since Marcus had called back and insisted they needed to talk about Noah. Yet despite rehearsing the conversation dozens of times in her mind, a wave of tension still ran down her spine. Marcus never acted on impulse. Every word and gesture was calculated like a chess game, where he always sought to control the board. "Thanks for coming." Maya Marcus began folding his newspaper, his voice as smooth as a lawyer opening arguments in court. "I know you're busy, so I'll get straight to the point." Maya nodded, her hands tightly clasped under the table to hide the anxiety. "Good. Go ahead, Marcus. What is this about?" Marcus leaned forward, his deep brown eyes locking onto hers. "Noah. It's time we revisited the custody agreement. He needs me more now, especially at this stage." Maya frowned, keeping her voice even. "The agreement was court-approved 2 years ago. Noah lives with me. You have visitation rights. Why do you suddenly want to change that?" Marcus smiled a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Don't misunderstand Maya. I only want what's best for our son. But I hear you're distracted. With a new man, right? A billionaire, if I'm not mistaken. His words landed like an invisible punch, making Maya pause. She knew Marcus had sources. He always found ways to know everything. But he mentioned Ethan Caldwell with such a mocking tone that ignited her anger. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. My personal life has nothing to do with Noah, she replied sharply. I'm his mother, and I always put him first. You know that. Do I? Marcus raised an eyebrow, leaning back as he drummed his fingers on the table. I'm not so sure, Maya. You appear in articles dining with Ethan Caldwell and stepping into his glitzy world. Would that not affect Noah? A 7-year-old boy needs stability, not the chaos of high society. Maya clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms. She wanted to shout that Marcus had no right to judge her, that he had abandoned her and Noah during her pregnancy, only reappearing once his legal career was secure. His image as a model father became useful. But she knew reacting emotionally would only give him an advantage. Instead, she met his gaze head-on. Noah is stable, Marcus. He has a home, a good school, and a mother who loves him. If you cared, you would have been there from the beginning. Marcus sighed as if trying to appear patient. Maya, I don't want to argue. I'm simply suggesting that Noah spend more time with me, maybe a few months. I have the resources and a larger apartment, and I can provide opportunities for you. I haven't yet. His words cut like a blade aimed at every insecurity Maya carried. She had worked relentlessly to build her career and ensure Noah lacked nothing. But she couldn't match Marcus's wealth or Ethan's. She bit her lip, holding back her fury. You're talking about taking Noah away from me, she said, voice low but firm. That's not a discussion, Marcus. That's a threat. Marcus shrugged, his faint smile returning. Call it what you want, but if you don't cooperate, I'll take this to court. And Maya, you know I don't lose cases. The air in the cafe suddenly felt heavier, the whirring espresso machines and distant laughter of other patrons sounding far away. Maya felt her heart pounding, but she didn't look away. She knew Marcus wasn't bluffing. He had money connections and the patience of a predator. But she wasn't someone who gave up easily. She said, if you want to fight, rise to her feet. The scrape of her chair against the wooden floor echoed slightly. But Noah is not leaving me. Marcus looked up at her, something flickering in his eyes. Not anger, but amusement, as if he were enjoying the game. We'll see, Maya, he said softly, but with unmistakable threat. See you in court. Maya turned and left the cafe, the crisp autumn air making her shiver. She walked a short distance, then stopped beneath a vibrant red maple tree, her hand trembling as she pulled out her phone. Without much thought, she called Ethan. He picked up after the first ring. Maya. How did it go? His deep, steady voice felt like an anchor in the storm swirling inside her. Maya breathed and recounted everything from Marcus's accusations about Ethan to his threat of legal action. She tried to keep her voice steady, but the anxiety seeped through. After a pause, Ethan's voice came back firmer. Where are you? I'm in Chicago. I'll come to you now. Maya hesitated. A part of her wanted to say no to handle this herself, as she always had. But another part, tired of carrying everything alone, nodded, even though he couldn't see it. I'm near Lincoln Park on Fullerton Avenue, she said. But Ethan, you don't have to. I want to, he interrupted, his tone leaving no room for debate. Please wait for me. 15 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up by the curb. Ethan stepped out, still in the white shirt, from his morning meeting. His light brown hair tousled slightly by the wind. He approached Maya, his deep blue eyes scanning her face, as if searching for signs of damage. Are you okay? he asked gently, touching her elbow. Maya nodded, but the exhaustion in her eyes didn't escape him. It's just… Marcus knows how to rattle me, she admitted. He talks about Noah like I'm not good enough to be his mother. Ethan frowned and led her to a nearby wooden bench. They sat, the dry leaves rustling beneath their feet. Listen, Maya, he said firmly. I don't know much about Marcus, but I know you. You're an incredible mother. I can tell by how you talk about Noah. Don't let him make you question that. His words reached a deep, locked-away place inside Maya. She looked at him, feeling the sincerity in his eyes and a new fear. Ethan was stepping into her world full of trouble and pain. She wasn't sure she was ready for him to face Marcus, or to lean on him herself. Thank you, Ethan, she said softly. But this could get ugly. I don't want to drag you into it. Ethan tilted his head slightly, offering a faint smile. You're not dragging me into anything. I'm choosing this. And I'm not the kind of guy who walks away halfway. Maya gave a small, grateful smile, torn between gratitude and vulnerability. She didn't know where the fight with Marcus would lead, but for the first time, she felt a flicker of hope that she didn't have to face it alone. Ethan gently touched her back as they stood guiding her toward the car. Come on, he said. Let me buy you some tea. Then we'll figure out how to deal with Marcus. As the car pulled away, Maya looked out the window, the golden leaves flashing like a quiet reminder that autumn was changing, and maybe, just maybe, so was her life. The soft afternoon sunlight faded, casting a warm amber glow over Maya Jackson's small apartment. Crayon drawings by Noah, stars, spaceships, and a smiling woman labeled Mom were taped along the living room walls, creating a cluttered space filled with love. Maya stood in the kitchen, the scent of tomato sauce pasta simmering on the stove, spreading throughout the apartment. She stirred the pot, but her thoughts were elsewhere. The confrontation with Marcus at the cafe yesterday still haunted her. Every word he said pierced her confidence like needles. Noah needs me more. I can give him opportunities you haven't. It wasn't just a threat, but a reminder of her limits, a single mother working tirelessly to raise her child while trying to build a startup dream. She glanced at the wall clock. It was time to pick up Noah from school. Maya turned off the stove, threw on her beige cardigan, and stepped outside. The autumn air was crisp and yellow leaves scattered like a natural carpet across the sidewalk. She walked toward the elementary school a few blocks away, her heart heavy. Marcus had sent an email that morning stating that his lawyer would be reaching out to discuss adjustments to the custody agreement. The language was formal, but Maya knew it was a declaration of war. She wondered if she had the strength to go up against Marcus with all his money, power, and connections, or if Noah would become the price she'd have to pay for years of fighting to preserve her independence. At the school gate, the bell rang, and children burst out like a swarm of bees. Maya smiled as she spotted Noah running toward her with his short curls and green backpack. "Mom," he yelled, flinging himself into her arms, his face glowing. "Today, I drew a giant spaceship. My teacher said it was the best drawing in class." Maya hugged him tightly, the warmth of his little body easing some of the worry in her chest. "Sweetheart," she asked, tousling his hair, "you'll have to show me as soon as we get home." Noah nodded eagerly, holding her hand as they walked, chattering excitedly about his day, from acing a math quiz to playing tag during recess. Maya listened, nodding and smiling, but her thoughts drifted back to Marcus. How could she protect Noah from his manipulations? How could she ensure he wouldn't be caught in a battle he couldn't understand? When they got home, Noah ran straight to the living room and pulled the drawing from his backpack. "Look, Mom," he said, holding up the paper. The drawing was colorful, with a silver spaceship flying among stars. In the corner, a small caption read, "Noah and Mom are adventuring through space." Maya's throat tightened. She knelt and pulled Noah into a hug. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "I love you, Noah. You know that, right?" Noah nodded, his wide eyes fixed on hers. "I love you too. You're the best astronaut ever." His innocent words made Maya smile, but also pierced her heart. She didn't want Noah to worry. She didn't want him to know about Marcus or the looming legal battles. But she knew she needed to be ready, not just for herself, but for Noah. That evening after dinner, Maya sat on the sofa reading Noah's favorite book, a story about space explorers, while he rested his head on her shoulder, eyelids growing heavy. The lamp's soft glow cast a warm circle of light, making the room feel like a haven. But when the story ended and Noah drifted off, Maya gently laid him on the couch and covered him with a light blanket. She walked over to the dining table where her laptop was open. An email from Marcus's lawyer glowed on the screen. The subject line read, "Urgent. Custody discussion request." The message was short, requesting a meeting to negotiate before Marcus formally filed in court. Maya sat down, her hands trembling as she reread the email. Memories came rushing back. Marcus abandoning her when she was pregnant with Noah. He called it a mistake and said he wasn't ready to be a father. However, Marcus returned once his legal career took off, demanding custody to present himself as a good father. Maya knew he didn't truly love Noah. He loved the image, a brilliant child to show off at elite parties. The thought made her angry, but it also filled her with fear. Marcus had money, power, and the patience of someone who never gave up. She picked up her phone, scrolling through her contacts, until she paused at Ethan Caldwell. Since their meeting at Lincoln Park yesterday, Ethan had texted to check in, but she hadn't replied. She wanted to call him to share the burden, but part of her still hesitated. Ethan was a billionaire from a different world where problems were solved with money and influence. Could he truly understand what she was facing? Would he stay when things got ugly? In the end, she typed a message. "Ethan, are you free? I just got an email from Marcus's lawyer. I'm not sure what to do." She hit send, her heart pounding, then set the phone down, telling herself not to expect too much. But less than a minute later, the phone buzzed. Ethan was calling. Maya's voice came through deep and steady, laced with urgency. "Are you okay? What did the email say?" Maya took a breath and explained the contents, her voice calm but tinged with worry. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. Then Ethan spoke firm and clear. "Listen, Marcus is trying to intimidate you. I know men like him, they use language to weaken their opponents. But you are not alone in this. I'm flying to Chicago tomorrow morning. We'll go through the email together, okay?" His offer stunned Maya. She hadn't expected such a quick response, or that he'd be willing to set aside his work to support her. "Ethan, you don't have to," she began, but he interrupted. "I want to, Maya," he said, his voice resolute. "You don't have to fight this alone. Not with me." A surge of emotion flooded Maya. Gratitude, confusion, and a flicker of fear. She wasn't used to leaning on anyone or letting someone into the messy reality of her life. But Ethan's voice, the sincerity in every word, made her feel safe, even if only for a moment. "Thank you," she said softly. "I'll wait for you." When the call ended, Maya turned to see Noah still sleeping peacefully on the sofa. She gently picked him up, carried him to his bedroom, laid him on the bed, and pulled the blanket over him. Looking at his serene face, she felt a new sense of resolve. Marcus might be a threat, but Noah was the reason she fought. And with Ethan beside her, she was starting to believe she could face anything. Back in the living room, Maya sat on the sofa, her eyes landing on Noah's spaceship, drawing still on the table. She picked it up smiling as she reread the words, "Noah and Mom are adventuring through space." No matter how hard the future became, she knew she wouldn't give up, not for herself, but for Noah, and the woman she had fought so hard to become the mother Noah truly deserved. The pale morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ethan Caldwell's office. Walnut bookshelves with documents and architectural models gleamed under the LED lighting, creating a luxurious and commanding space. Ethan sat behind a glass desk, his deep blue eyes focused on the computer screen, where an email from Maya Jackson was open. The message was brief, yet laced with worry. "Ethan, I just received a notice from Marcus's lawyer. They want to negotiate about Noah. I don't know what to do." He reread the email, fingers tapping rhythmically on the desk, his mind already drafting a plan. Ethan knew this wasn't a simple matter. Marcus, a successful attorney, had money and a vast influence network. But Ethan wasn't someone who went down easily. He had built his real estate empire from the ground up, going toe-to-toe with rivals far more formidable than Marcus. What concerned him wasn't Marcus. It was Maya, the woman he was growing more attached to than he had expected. She was strong, but Ethan had seen the pain hidden behind her eyes, and he didn't want her facing this battle alone. He pressed the intercom. "Sarah," he said to his assistant, "cancel my morning meetings and arrange the jet to Chicago within the next 2 hours. Call James Thornton. I need him at my Chicago office by noon." Sarah, always efficient, confirmed immediately. James Thornton was Caldwell Enterprises' top attorney specializing in complex litigation. If Marcus wanted to play legal games, Ethan would ensure Maya had the best team backing her. In Chicago, Maya sat in her small apartment, sunlight streaming through the window and illuminating Noah's drawings on the wall. She had just dropped Noah off at school, forcing a smile to keep him from sensing her tension. But once the door closed behind her, the weight of the situation pressed down on her shoulders. The email from Marcus's lawyer wasn't just an invitation to negotiate. It was a warning that he was ready to take this to court. She opened her laptop and reread the email, searching for a clue, a weak point. But all she saw were carefully crafted legal phrases designed to make her feel small. Her phone vibrated, pulling her from her thoughts. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. She took a breath and answered. "Ethan, are you in Chicago already?" "Just landed." His voice replied low, steady and reassuring. "I'm heading to my downtown office. Can you meet me there? I've called in a lawyer, James Thornton. He's the best in this field. We'll go through Marcus's email and build a plan." Maya blinked, surprised by Ethan's speed. Part of her felt deeply grateful, but another part felt uncertain. She was used to handling everything alone, from raising Noah to building her startup. Leaning on Ethan, especially with the vast resources at his disposal, made her feel like she might be giving up part of her independence. "Ethan, she said hesitantly, "I'm not sure I can afford a lawyer like that." "Maya," Ethan cut in, his tone gentle but firm, "this isn't about money. I want to help you. I don't think you can't handle it, but I know you deserve someone standing by your side." His words touched something deep within her. She paused momentarily, then nodded even though he couldn't see it. "All right," she said. "Please send me the address. I'll be there." Ethan's Chicago office sat on the 30th floor of a high-rise, its windows overlooking the glimmering Chicago River. When Maya entered, she was momentarily overwhelmed by the sleek, modern interior, marble floors, abstract artwork on the walls, and a long conference table surrounded by black leather chairs. Ethan stood from his seat, wearing a dark blue shirt with rolled-up sleeves, his warm smile softening her nerves. "You're here," he said, guiding her to the conference table. "James will be here in a few minutes. Can I get you something? Coffee, tea?" "Coffee?" Maya replied, sitting down. She glanced around, acutely aware of how different Ethan's world was from hers. Her modest apartment with Noah's art and the scent of homemade pasta felt worlds away from this. James Thornton entered, a middle-aged man with silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes. He shook Maya's hand, his voice calm and assured. "Ms. Jackson, I've read the email Mr. Caldwell forwarded. We will break it down and ensure you have the upper hand." They sat down, and James began to explain. He said your current custody agreement is solid, flipping through a folder. Marcus would need to prove you're unfit or that Noah is in danger. Based on the records, he has no grounds. But he may try to pressure you, dragging the process out to exhaust you. Maya nodded, gripping her coffee cup. "That's Marcus's style," she said. "He knows how to wear people down." Ethan, seated beside her, leaned forward. "So what do we do to stop him?" he asked, eyes focused on James. James gave a thin smile. "We stay ahead. I'll demand full disclosure of his legal basis. If they want to negotiate, we set our terms. If it goes to court, we'll have a bulletproof case." Maya listened, feeling a slight sense of relief but also unease. She glanced at Ethan, who was jotting notes on a pad, his expression serious. She knew he was doing this for her, but she couldn't help but wonder if she was pulling him into a battle that wasn't his to fight. When James stepped out to take a call, Maya turned to Ethan. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked quietly. "You don't have to get involved in my mess." Ethan looked at her, his eyes softening. He set down his pen and answered slowly. "When I was 10, my mother lost custody of me in court. She had no money and no good lawyer, and my father used every dirty tactic to win. I don't want you to go through that, Maya. Not when I can help." His story stunned her. She had always imagined Ethan as someone untouched by hardship, but this revelation made him feel more human, more real. She gave him a faint smile. "Thank you, Ethan. But I don't want to lose myself in this. I need to feel like I'm still in control." Ethan nodded, never breaking eye contact. "You will be in control. I'm just here to make sure you have every tool you need." That afternoon, Maya returned home, her thoughts still spinning from the meeting. As she opened the door, her phone rang. Her mother, Evelyn, watched Noah while Maya handled the legal situation. "Maya, are you okay?" she asked, her voice full of concern. "Noah said you looked tired this morning." Maya sighed, sinking onto the sofa. "I'm fine, Mom. Just... Marcus is causing trouble again. He wants to change the custody agreement." There was a brief pause on the line. Then Evelyn replied firmly, "You are a wonderful mother, Maya. Don't let Marcus make you question that. If he wants a fight, show him how strong you are." Her mother's words brought a smile to Maya's face. She felt a renewed sense of strength, not just from Ethan but also from her family. But as she ended the call, a white envelope slid through the mail slot. She picked it up, her heart pounding when she saw the law firm's logo. Inside was an official document, a summons to attend a custody negotiation within 3 days, warning that Marcus would take the matter to court if she didn't cooperate. Maya stood there, envelope in hand, feeling the storm approaching. But this time, she wasn't alone. She texted Ethan. "Marcus just sent official documents. Are you free tonight? I need to talk." As she hit send, she knew that no matter how difficult the road ahead, she was ready to fight for Noah herself and the future she was finally beginning to believe in. The harsh white light of fluorescent lamps illuminated the office, casting a bright glare over modern desks and whiteboards covered in brainstorming notes. The sound of keyboards clacking and the lively chatter of young engineers created a dynamic atmosphere, but also tense. Maya sat at her workstation, a small corner adorned with Noah's framed spaceship drawing. She was reviewing the financial report for an upcoming funding round, but her mind couldn't stay focused. The custody battle with Marcus weighed heavily on her thoughts. The legal document he had sent yesterday, a request to renegotiate custody over Noah, still sat in her bag, a constant reminder that time was running out. Her phone buzzed. Maya glanced at the screen. A message from Aisha, her best friend, and an independent journalist, Maya. Meet me at the cafe on the corner. Urgent. Maya frowned. Aisha rarely messaged with that tone of urgency. She quickly replied, grabbed her beige wool coat, and headed out. The autumn air in Chicago was crisp, with swirling golden leaves dancing across the sidewalk as the wind blew through the city. The corner cafe, with its wooden sign carved with the words Brew and Muse, was a familiar spot where Maya and Aisha often met to share stories about work and life. Inside, the smell of roasted coffee mingled with toasted bread, and soft acoustic music played from the speakers. Aisha was already seated by the window, her curly hair tied high, and her brown eyes filled with concern. A tablet and a steaming latte sat in front of her. Maya, sit down, Aisha said, sliding the tablet toward her. You need to see this. Maya sat, a wave of dread passing through her. She took the tablet, and the screen lit up with an article from a popular entertainment news site. The headline jumped out. Single mom captures billionaire's heart. The secret behind Maya Jackson and Ethan Caldwell. Below the headline was a distant photograph of her and Ethan leaving a bar days earlier, his hand gently resting on her back. The article described her as an ambitious startup founder, but also suggested she was leveraging her relationship with Caldwell to climb the social ladder. One passage read, "Is Maya Jackson truly in love with the real estate billionaire? Or is this a strategic move to secure her and her son's future?" Maya felt her face flush, equal parts anger and humiliation. She scrolled further, finding venomous comments from readers. She's after his money. A mother like that doesn't deserve custody. She set the tablet down, her hand trembling. How did they even get that photo? She asked, her voice low and shaky. Aisha sighed, leaning back. I checked. A freelance paparazzo took it and sold it to the outlet. But Maya, this isn't the only article. At least 3 other sites are covering you and Ethan. Some even contacted me for information. Maya blinked, trying to process the flood of news. She had known being connected to Ethan would draw attention, but she hadn't expected it to come this fast, or with such cruel intent. Aisha, I don't want this to affect Noah, she said, her voice urgent. If he sees these articles or hears something at school... I understand, Aisha interrupted, placing a hand on hers. But you need to act before this spirals out of control. The media is building a story about you, and it's not good. You need to tell your own story. Maya frowned. Do you mean to go public? Talk about my personal life? No way. Aisha leaned in, her expression serious. Not your personal life, Maya. The truth. You're a single mom, a founder, someone trying to build a better life for her son. If you don't speak, others will, and they won't be kind. Maya stayed silent, staring out the window at the passers-by, walking quickly under the pale afternoon sun. She wondered how Noah might react if classmates whispered about his mom. She thought of Marcus, who would surely use these articles in court to paint her as unstable. And she thought of Ethan, who had entered her life like a gust of wind, bringing hope and risk. Let me think about it, she said finally, her voice small. I'm not ready for the whole world to know about this. Aisha nodded, but slid a business card across the table. This is the number of editors at reputable magazines. They want to interview you, not a tabloid piece, a respectful profile. Just consider it. Back at the office, Maya couldn't concentrate. She opened her phone and scrolled through the other articles. One site dubbed her Caldwell's secret girlfriend, while another accused her of using Ethan to promote her startup. Each word felt like a blade stripping her bare before the public eye. She texted Ethan, "Have you seen the articles they're writing about us?" He replied instantly, I have. Are you okay? I'm at the office. Want me to come by? Maya hesitated, then typed back, no need, but we need to talk. Tonight? Okay, Ethan replied. 7 p.m. The Gauge. I'll reserve a table. That evening, Maya walked into the Gauge, a high-end restaurant in downtown Chicago, with soft golden lighting and rustic brick walls. Ethan was already there, seated at a corner table, wearing a deep blue shirt. His eyes lit up when he saw her. She wore a simple black dress, her curls loose, trying to mask her unease. As she sat, Ethan leaned in, his voice low. Maya, I'm sorry about the articles. I should have warned you. My life, it tends to attract attention. Maya offered a faint smile. It's not your fault. But Ethan, what they're saying. They're painting me as someone unworthy of you. Someone using you. If Marcus gets hold of these, he'll use them to say, I'm an unfit mother. Ethan's brow furrowed, his hand gripping his wine glass. Marcus won't get that chance. I've asked James to review the articles. If there's defamation, we'll sue. But Maya, you don't have to face this alone. We'll get through it. Maya looked at him, emotions swirling. She knew Ethan wanted to help, but feared the spotlight might hurt Noah. Aisha suggested I do an interview, she said hesitantly. Tell my story. What do you think? Ethan nodded, his gaze steady. It's a good idea, but only if you're ready. I'll be right there with you if you decide to do it. His offer caught her off guard. She hadn't considered facing the media with Ethan, but the thought made her feel less alone. I'll think about it, she said. But thank you, Ethan, for being here. Ethan smiled and placed his hand gently over hers. Always Maya. Maya felt lighter, but still wary as she left the restaurant that night. Her phone buzzed with another notification, a new article titled, Maya Jackson, Single Mother or Gold Digger. She turned off the screen, refusing to let the words shake her. But deep down, she knew Aisha was right. If she didn't reclaim her own story, Marcus or the media would do it for her. The Cook County Family Court courtroom held a heavy atmosphere with dark wooden walls and long benches lined with deep blue cushions. Harsh white light from fluorescent bulbs cast a spotlight on the stern faces of the judge, attorneys, and those present. Maya Jackson sat in the front row beside her attorney, James Thornton, her hands clasped tightly in her lap to conceal the tension. She wore a simple black suit, her natural curls tied back, trying to project calm, even as her heart pounded. Today was the first hearing for her ex-husband, Marcus's petition to modify the custody agreement of their son Noah. The legal documents he had sent the previous week and the malicious media coverage surrounding her relationship with Ethan Caldwell had cost Maya many sleepless nights. Ethan sat just behind her, his presence like an invisible anchor. Dressed in a white shirt and gray suit, his deep blue eyes stayed focused on the front, but Maya felt his silent support through the gentle touch on her shoulder as they entered the courtroom. You'll be okay, he had whispered before the session began. James knows what he's doing. Maya nodded, but she wasn't sure she could endure the weight of this trial, not just for Noah's sake, but under the judgmental gazes of strangers who might have read the articles calling her a gold digger. The judge, a middle-aged woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, struck her gavel. Let's begin, she declared, her voice ringing through the room. Marcus's attorney, a tall, lean man with steel-rimmed glasses, stood and opened with a smooth tone. Your Honor, my client, Mr. Marcus Reynolds, petitions for modifying the current custody arrangement in the best interests of his son, Noah Jackson. Due to her recent lifestyle, we are concerned that Ms. Maya Jackson cannot provide a stable environment for the child. Maya clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms as the attorney continued. Ms. Jackson has become the focus of media attention, because of her relationship with Mr. Ethan Caldwell, a real estate billionaire. This attention and her demanding schedule present a potential instability for Noah. We propose that the child reside with Mr. Reynolds for at least 6 months of the year, where he will have a safer, more secure environment. The accusation cut deep, aimed directly at Maya's deepest fear, that she wasn't enough as a mother. She glanced at Marcus sitting across the room in a navy suit, his expression cold, though a glint of smugness flickered in his eyes. She knew he didn't honestly want Noah. He wanted control. He wanted to prove she couldn't thrive without him. James Thornton rose, his voice calm but piercing. Your Honor, Mr. Reynolds' claims are unfounded. Ms. Maya Jackson is a devoted mother who has raised Noah excellently for 7 years. She is a successful startup founder who has provided her son with a loving home and a quality education. The articles cited are sensationalized and do not reflect her capabilities as a parent. The judge nodded, jotting something down, but didn't interrupt. James continued presenting records of Noah's academic performance and letters of support from colleagues and teachers. Maya listened, feeling slightly reassured, but still wary. She knew Marcus might lack hard evidence, but he was skilled at manipulating the narrative. Then, unexpectedly, Ethan stood. Your Honor, he said, his voice low and clear, echoing through the silent courtroom. May I speak? The judge raised an eyebrow, curious. Mr. Caldwell, you have no legal standing in this matter. What do you wish to say? Not formally, Ethan admitted. However, I have direct knowledge of Ms. Jackson's character as a mother, and I believe the court should hear it. Maya turned to him, her heart racing. This wasn't part of James's plan, and she had no idea what Ethan intended to say. Even James looked surprised, but he didn't object. The judge considered, then nodded. Proceed, Mr. Caldwell. Briefly. Ethan stepped forward, standing tall. His gaze swept the room before landing on the judge. I haven't known Ms. Maya Jackson for long, but I saw her unwavering dedication as a mother then. Every decision she makes revolves around Noah, from choosing his school to reading to him every night. The articles Mr. Reynolds' counsel referenced are distortions. They do not represent the truth of who she is. Mr. Reynolds is exploiting them to manipulate this court. Marcus shifted in his seat, anger flashing in his eyes. His attorney stood. Your Honor, Mr. Caldwell has no standing to make claims about my client. The judge raised her hand to silence him. I will decide what is admissible, sir. Mr. Caldwell, anything else? Ethan nodded, his voice still steady but sharper now. Just one thing. Your Honor, this isn't about Noah's welfare. It's about control. Mr. Reynolds isn't trying to nurture his son. He's trying to punish Ms. Jackson for building a successful, independent life without him. The courtroom fell silent. The only sound the faint clicking of the clerk's keyboard. Maya stared at Ethan, a surge of emotion flooding her, gratitude, admiration, and a trace of fear. He had just openly challenged Marcus, and she wasn't sure what the fallout would be. After an hour of arguments, the judge struck the gavel. Based on current evidence, I see no reason to modify the custody arrangement at this time, she ruled. Mr. Reynolds' petition for temporary custody is denied. However, this matter will be reviewed further in the next hearing scheduled in 6 weeks. The court is adjourned. Maya exhaled as if a weight had been lifted from her chest. She turned to James, who offered a small smile. This is a good start, Maya, he said. But Marcus won't back down. She nodded, then looked to Ethan, standing now, his eyes still locked on her. Thank you, she said quietly. I didn't expect you to speak like that. Ethan smiled, though his eyes were serious. I couldn't just sit there while he tried to tear you down, Maya. Not when I could do something. As they exited the courtroom, the autumn sunlight spilled through the glass doors, brightening the stone path outside. Maya felt relieved, but knew the battle was far from over. In the distance, Marcus stood with his attorney casting a cold glance her way. She didn't look back, but the sensation of being watched made her shiver. Ethan gently touched her back, guiding her toward the car. "Feel like celebrating?" he asked, a teasing note in his voice. "Or would a cup of coffee suffice?" Maya laughed, honestly, laughed for the first time that day. "Coffee's enough," she replied. "But Ethan, what you said about Marcus wanting to control me, do you believe that?" Ethan stopped and looked her straight in the eyes. "I've met men like him, Maya. They don't fight for love. They fight for power. But you're stronger than him, and I'll be here to remind you of that." His words stirred something deep within her. Maya didn't know what the next hearing would bring, but for the first time, she believed she could face Marcus. Not just for Noah, but for herself, for the woman learning to believe in her strength, and those standing beside her. The streets of downtown Chicago bustled at midday, filled with honking horns and the hurried footsteps of pedestrians under the soft autumn sunlight. Maya Jackson stepped out of her startup's office in the West Loop, her beige wool coat wrapped snugly around her as she crossed the street toward a nearby sandwich shop. The temporary courtroom victory last week, when the judge denied Marcus's motion for temporary custody, had given her a small sense of relief. But she knew he wouldn't give up easily. Marcus, a seasoned lawyer, always found a way to turn the tide, and the smug look he gave her in court still haunted her. She had just placed a grilled chicken sandwich on the counter when her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from Aisha, her best friend and a freelance journalist. Maya checked Twitter now. New article. It isn't good. Maya's heart skipped. She pulled out her phone and opened the app. A headline from a gossip outlet blared on the screen. "Did Ethan Caldwell bribe the judge in a custody battle? Insider reveals shocking details." The article alleged that Ethan had used his influence and wealth to sway the judge's decision to protect his lover, Maya Jackson. A blurry photo showed Ethan leaving the courthouse, accompanied by a caption, "Is this billionaire playing dirty to preserve his perfect image?" Maya stood frozen, the sandwich forgotten in her hand. The article didn't just attack Ethan. It dragged her image down with him, implying she was complicit in a scheme to keep custody of Noah. The comments were worse. "Gold digger in action. Shameful for a mother." Her face flushed with a mixture of rage and panic. How could this be happening? And more importantly, was there any truth to it? She immediately called Ethan, her fingers trembling as she dialed. He picked up on the second ring. "Maya, you saw the article, didn't you?" His voice was low, but there was a tension in it she hadn't heard before. "Yes," she replied urgently. "Ethan, tell me what they're saying isn't true. You didn't do anything with the judge." There was a pause. Then Ethan responded, his voice firm. "Of course not. I didn't bribe anyone, Maya. This is Marcus's dirty game. He's trying to discredit us before the next hearing." Maya exhaled, relieved, but still shaken. "How do you know it's him?" "Because I know how people like him operate," Ethan said. "They spread rumors and create scandals to apply pressure. James is tracing the article's source. I'm betting it came from a PR firm hired by Marcus." Maya stepped out of the shop, standing under a crimson maple tree, trying to steady her breath. "Ethan, if this spreads, it'll affect Noah. If he hears something at school. About me, about you." Her voice caught in her throat. "Maya, listen to me," Ethan said, his tone soft but resolute. "We'll handle this. I'm in Chicago. Where are you? I'll come to you." She gave him the address and hung up, the world around her spinning. She quickly texted Aisha. "I need your help. Marcus is behind this article. Can you find out for sure?" Aisha responded immediately. "I suspected that. I've got a contact in PR. Let me dig. Meet me at my office at 3. At Aisha's small office in Logan Square, lined with magazine stacks and a whiteboard covered in scribbles, Maya sat on the sofa cradling a warm mug of tea. Aisha, laptop on her lap, scrolled through emails and messages. I contacted my source, and she said her eyes were still on the screen. The PR firm behind the article is Sterling Media, a company known for working with lawyers and businessmen. They've got a history of planting rumors to sway legal cases. I'm almost sure Marcus hired them. Maya nodded, anger welling inside her. He doesn't just want Noah, he wants to destroy me. Aisha turned to her eyes, serious. Exactly. But Maya, you've got an advantage. You have the truth, and us. I will repeat this. You need to do that interview I mentioned last week. Tell your story as a mother, a founder, and a woman being manipulated by her ex. If you don't, Marcus will keep controlling the narrative. Maya tightened her grip on the mug, replaying Aisha's words. She hated exposing her life to the public, but she knew her friend was right. If she stayed silent, Marcus would keep leaking lies, and those lies would shape how people saw her and Noah. She nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do the interview. But Aisha, I need your help preparing. I don't want to become another tabloid headline. Aisha smiled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. I'll be with you every step. You've got this, Maya. That evening, Maya met Ethan at his penthouse in Streeterville, its balcony overlooking the shimmering lights of the Chicago River. The space was expansive, with dark hardwood floors and sleek modern furnishings, a sharp contrast to Maya's modest apartment. Ethan stood by the window, a glass of whiskey in hand, his expression contemplative. James confirmed it, he said as she entered. The article came from Sterling Media. There is no solid evidence, just an anonymous source. Marcus is stirring the pot. Maya sank into the sofa, exhausted, but resolved. Aisha said the same. She thinks Marcus is trying to break me before the next hearing. Ethan turned, eyes sharp. He won't win. I've already asked my legal team to prepare a statement to refute the claims. If Marcus wants to play dirty, we'll fight back. Maya looked at him, her emotions tangled. She knew he wanted to protect her, but she feared this war would drag him down too. Ethan, I don't want you getting hurt because of me, she said softly. Those articles, they're attacking you too. Ethan crossed the room and sat beside her, his gaze unwavering. Maya, I've dealt with the media before. What they write doesn't matter. What matters is you and Noah. I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere. His words sent a rush through her chest. She looked into his eyes, saw the sincerity, and for the first time allowed herself to believe he meant it. She placed her hand gently on his. Thank you, Ethan. I don't know what I'd do without you. Ethan smiled, squeezing her hand. You'd still handle it, but I'm glad I get to be here for it. As she left the penthouse, Maya felt a renewed sense of determination. Her phone buzzed with a new message from Aisha. I found the contract between Sterling Media and a shell company. It links back to Marcus. Get ready for your interview, girl. Maya smiled, knowing the fight with Marcus had entered a new phase. But this time, she wasn't just fighting for Noah. She was fighting for herself. And with Ethan and Aisha by her side, she was ready for whatever came next. The lights shimmered on the surface of the Michigan River, twinkling like lost stars, as Maya Jackson stood on the balcony of Ethan Caldwell's penthouse. The autumn wind carried a crisp chill, making her natural curls flutter gently. Dressed in a soft gray knit dress, she hugged her arms around herself for warmth, her thoughtful gaze fixed on the horizon. After last week's slanderous article accusing Ethan of bribing the judge, Maya felt like she was walking a tightrope with Marcus at one end and public scrutiny at the other. But tonight, She wasn't here to strategize their next move. She was here for Ethan, who had become an irreplaceable part of her life. Ethan stepped onto the balcony, 2 glasses of red wine in hand, his blue eyes glowing under the soft lights of the apartment. He wore a white button-down shirt tucked casually into slacks, the sleeves rolled up, exuding a relaxed confidence that never quite shed its innate authority. Tea or wine? He asked, a gentle smile easing some of Maya's tension. Tonight, you might need something more substantial than coffee. Maya chuckled, taking the wine. Wine sounds like the right choice, she said, taking a sip, letting the soft bitterness settle on her tongue. Thank you, Ethan, for everything. They stood side by side, gazing out over the shimmering river. Ethan tilted his head, eyes searching hers. You're still thinking about the article, aren't you? Or is it Marcus? Both, Maya admitted quietly. Aisha's still investigating the PR firm behind it, Sterling Media. She says she found solid links to Marcus, but I'm afraid he won't stop. If he spreads more rumors or brings them up in court. Her voice trailed off, eyes drifting toward the skyscrapers glowing in the distance. Ethan set his glass on the balcony railing and turned toward her, his gaze serious. Maya, I know you're worried, but we're ahead of him. James has already built a rebuttal file, and Aisha's doing incredible work. Marcus can play dirty, but he's not invincible. Maya nodded, but the anxiety still lingered. She thought of Noah, how he might react if he heard classmates whispering about his mother. She thought of all the years she had struggled to build an independent life, only to be dragged into a war she never wanted. And she thought of Ethan standing here now, ready to weather the storm with her. Ethan, she said softly, I'm scared. Not just of Marcus, but of this. Us. I never imagined I'd be here with you in a world where everyone's watching. If I let myself love you, and it all falls apart. She paused, her throat tightening. Ethan stepped closer, gently taking her hand in his. His warmth steadied her. Maya, he said, his voice deep and sincere. I'm scared too. I loved once, and I lost her because I was too focused on building this empire. I told myself I'd never let that happen again, that I wouldn't let myself fall. He paused, his eyes locking with hers. But then I met you. Maya blinked, her heart pounding. She looked into his eyes and saw something raw, vulnerable, rarely shown. Ethan, what are you saying? She whispered, her voice trembling. I'm saying I love you, he replied without hesitation. I love how you fight for Noah. I love how you never give up, even when the world tries to drag you down. I love your smile, rare as it is. And I want to be with you, no matter what happens. His words swept through her like wind breaking the walls around her heart. Her eyes stung not from sadness, but from something more profound. She stepped closer, placing her hand over his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Ethan, I love you too, she whispered, but I'm afraid that loving you makes me more vulnerable than ever, especially now. Ethan leaned down, his forehead resting gently against hers, their breath mingling. Love doesn't make you weak, Maya, he murmured. It makes you stronger. And I promise I won't let you face anything alone. They stood there wrapped in silence, hearts beating in unison, the wind their only witness. Then Ethan leaned in and kissed her, a slow, deliberate kiss, deep with meaning, as if sealing his vow onto her soul. Maya kissed him back, allowing herself to truly feel. She forgot the articles, forgot Marcus, forgot the world. Only she and Ethan were in that moment, and a love blooming amid the storm. But peace never lasts long. Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket, shattering the stillness. She reluctantly pulled away and checked the message. It was from Aisha. Call me ASAP. Marcus just filed for an emergency hearing. He's demanding temporary custody of Noah until the Sterling Media investigation is complete. Maya's chest tightened. She reread the message, then looked up at Ethan, her eyes wide with alarm. "Marcus," she said, her voice tense. "He wants an emergency hearing. Aisha says. He's trying to take Noah immediately." Ethan's jaw clenched, his hand tightening on the railing. "He's panicking," he muttered. "If Aisha found the evidence linking him to Sterling Media, he knows he's about to lose. This is his last-ditch effort to apply pressure." Maya nodded, but her fear wouldn't subside. She thought of Noah sleeping soundly at home with Evelyn. The idea of losing him even temporarily stole her breath. "What do I do, Ethan?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "If the court sides with him—" "We won't let that happen," Ethan said firmly. "I'm calling James right now. We'll prepare." "And Maya, you need to do that interview," Aisha suggested. "Tell your story before Marcus twists it into something it's not." Maya met his gaze, a new resolve rising inside her. Ethan was right. Silence was no longer an option. She nodded, gripping his hand. "All right, I'll do the interview. But Ethan, will you be there?" Ethan smiled, pulling her into his arms. "Always," he whispered. The next morning, sunlight filtered through Maya's apartment window, casting a warm glow on Noah's spaceship painting hanging on the wall. Maya sat on the couch, phone to her ear. "I want to do this right," she told Aisha, confirming the interview with the magazine. "No tabloids, no drama, just the truth." "I'll make sure of it," Aisha replied confidently. "You're going to tell your story, Maya, and the world will see you for who you are, a mother, a fighter." After the call, Maya walked into Noah's room, where he was coloring a new drawing, a house beneath a sky full of stars. "Mom, look," he said, holding it up. "This is our house, and that's you." Maya knelt beside him, pulling him into her arms as emotion surged. "It's beautiful, baby," she said, kissing his forehead. "I love you so much." The battle with Marcus was intensifying, but as Maya held her son close, she knew she could face anything. With Ethan by her side, Aisha was fighting for her, and Noah was her reason. Maya was ready, not just to keep her son, but to prove that she was stronger than Marcus or anyone else ever imagined. The soft white light of a desk lamp illuminated the wooden bookshelves in Ethan Caldwell's law office, creating a space that felt both serious and warm. Legal folders lay scattered across the long conference table, mixed in with half-empty cups of cold coffee. Maya Jackson sat beside Ethan, her eyes fixed on James Thornton's laptop screen. A series of financial documents with red-marked transactions and highlighted entries were on them. Maya's best friend Aisha stood near the window, arms crossed, her sharp gaze focused, as she explained her latest discovery. The room was thick with tension, but buzzing with a flicker of hope. They had just uncovered something that could completely change the battle against Marcus. "This is the evidence," Aisha said, pointing at the screen. "I traced the contract from Sterling Media, the PR firm behind the defamatory article about Ethan. A shell company paid them. But after digging deeper, I discovered that a fund managed by Marcus indirectly owns the company. And not just that." She clicked open another file. "These transactions show that Marcus has been embezzling money from client funds at his law firm. He's routing the money through offshore accounts to hide it." Maya blinked, trying to process. "You mean, is Marcus committing a crime?" she asked, her voice quiet but filled with hope. James nodded, his salt and pepper eyes lighting up. "Yes, Ms. Jackson. This is money laundering and embezzlement. Bringing this evidence to court will destroy Marcus's legal credibility and trigger a criminal investigation." Ethan, seated beside Maya, leaned forward, the icy blue of his eyes sharp with resolve. "So what do we do next?" he asked. Do we go public now or wait for next week's emergency hearing? James shook his head. Going public too soon could give Marcus time to cover his tracks. We should file this with the court immediately and send a copy to the Financial Crimes Unit. But Ms. Jackson, the final call is yours. This is your case. Maya sat silently, her gaze flickering over the numbers on the screen. She thought of Noah, of the nights he slept soundly in her arms, of the spaceship drawing he made labeled Noah and Mom. She thought of Marcus, who had abandoned her during her pregnancy, only to return years later to manipulate both her and Noah. This evidence could destroy him, but she also worried about the toll it would take on her son. Would Noah be hurt to learn that his father was a criminal? I need to talk to Noah first, Maya said finally, her voice steady. He doesn't understand all of this, but I don't want to decide without thinking of how it might affect him. Ethan placed his hand gently over hers, his gaze soft and supportive. You're an incredible mother, Maya, he said. Do whatever feels right. We'll back you up. Aisha nodded. I'll prep an article to counterattack, but I won't release it unless you give the word. Just say the word, and I'll make sure every major outlet knows who Marcus is. Maya gave a faint smile, grateful for the support surrounding her. Thank you both, she said, rising. I'll talk to Noah tonight. Then we'll decide. That evening, Maya sat on the couch in her small Hyde Park apartment, the desk lamp casting a warm glow. Noah lay beside her, his head resting on her shoulder, flipping through a book about galaxies. Mom, do you think there are aliens on Mars? He asked, wide eyes sparkling with curiosity. Maya chuckled, ruffling his hair. No one knows for sure, baby. But if there are, I bet they'd love your drawings. She paused, drawing a breath. It was time for a serious conversation. Noah, I want to ask you something about your dad. Noah sat up looking curious, but slightly anxious. What about him? Mom? Maya chose her words carefully. Your dad and I are discussing who you'll live with more often, but I want to know how you feel. What do you want? Noah was quiet for a moment, his fingers brushing the edge of the book. I want to stay with you, he said softly but firmly. Dad's nice, but I don't see him much. I like it here with you, Grandma, and my drawings. His words filled Maya with strength, dissolving the doubts still lingering in her heart. She hugged him tightly and kissed his forehead. I want that too, sweetheart, and I'll do everything I can to make sure it happens. After Noah was asleep, Maya called Ethan. I spoke to Noah. She said, her voice resolute. He wants to stay with me. Ethan, I'm ready to go public with the evidence. Marcus can't keep controlling this. Ethan exhaled on the other end of the line, pride in his voice. I knew you'd do the right thing. I'll have James submit the documents. And Maya, I'm proud of you. The next morning, Maya was getting Noah ready for school when the doorbell rang. She opened the door and her heart thumped when she saw Marcus standing there. He wore a gray suit, but his dark eyes were tense, contrasting his usual smugness. We need to talk, Maya, he said, his voice low. Maya folded her arms, blocking the doorway, her eyes steely. There's nothing to talk about, Marcus. It's going to court. Marcus stepped forward, his voice pleading, but with an edge of menace. You don't have to make this ugly. Withdraw everything about Sterling Media, and I'll drop the emergency hearing request. We can settle this privately. Maya gave a bitter laugh, shaking her head. You're scared, aren't you? You know what we have. Walk away, Marcus. This is your last chance to do the right thing. Marcus stared at her, fury flashing in his eyes, but he said nothing more. He turned and walked down the hallway, leaving Maya with her heart pounding, but firm in her resolve. She turned to Noah, who was tying his shoelaces. Ready for school, baby? She asked gently. Ready, Mom? He beamed. That afternoon, James filed the evidence of Marcus's embezzlement with the court and forwarded a copy to the Financial Crimes Unit. Aisha, leveraging her media contacts, reached out to reputable journalists, and by evening headlines broke Chicago attorney accused of embezzlement in custody dispute. The articles painted Marcus as a manipulator, using his child to cover up criminal behavior. Maya read the news on her phone, feeling both relieved and anxious. She knew Marcus wouldn't go down quietly. He would fight to the end. That night, Ethan called, his voice warm and calm. "Did you see the news?" "We did it, Maya." "Not over yet," she replied with cautious hope. "But Ethan, thank you for standing by me." "Always," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. Sitting on her couch, Maya glanced at Noah's drawing on the table. For the first time, she felt the tide turning in her favor. The battle wasn't over, but she finally had the upper hand. With Ethan, Aisha, and Noah beside her, Maya was ready for whatever Marcus threw next. The Cook County Family Court courtroom was silent, save for the rustling of papers and the soft footsteps of the court clerk. The dark wood-paneled walls and rows of navy blue cushioned benches gave the space a solemn atmosphere, heightened by the white fluorescent lights overhead. Maya Jackson sat in the front row beside her attorney James Thornton, her hands tightly clasped on her lap as she tried to maintain composure despite her racing heart. Today was the emergency hearing that Marcus had requested, aiming to gain temporary custody of Noah, while the official custody case was pending. But after uncovering Marcus's embezzlement with the help of Aisha and Ethan's team, Maya felt a glimmer of hope that justice might be on her side. Ethan sat just behind her, his presence a steady anchor. He wore a gray suit, and his deep blue eyes focused on the judge. But Maya felt his quiet encouragement in the gentle tap on her shoulder before the hearing began. Aisha, seated at the back, typed notes on her phone, ready to report the hearing to the journalists she had contacted. The courtroom air was heavy, as if everyone could feel the moment's gravity. Judge Ellen Harper banged her gavel, her voice echoing. "We'll begin. Mr. Reynolds, your side has requested temporary custody. Please proceed." Marcus's attorney, a man with wire-rimmed glasses, stood and spoke in a smooth but noticeably less confident tone than in the previous session. "Your Honor, my client, Mr. Marcus Reynolds, is concerned that Ms. Maya Jackson cannot provide a stable environment for their son, Noah. The media attention surrounding Ms. Jackson's relationship with Mr. Ethan Caldwell and her busy schedule puts Noah in an unstable situation. We request that Mr. Reynolds be granted temporary custody." Maya clenched her hands, anger rising at the familiar accusations. She glanced across the aisle at Marcus, who sat in a navy suit, unable to mask the tension in his expression. His eyes avoided hers, fixed on his attorney, as if he knew the tide had turned against him. James Thornton stood, his voice calm but sharp. "Your Honor, Mr. Reynolds's allegations are not only baseless, but are a manipulation to distract from his misconduct. We have evidence that Mr. Reynolds embezzled funds from client accounts at his law firm and hired Sterling Media, a PR company, to spread false rumors about Ms. Jackson and Mr. Caldwell." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Judge Harper raised her hand for silence. "Mr. Thornton, do you have proof of these serious accusations?" James nodded and handed a thick folder to the court clerk. "These are financial records, contracts, and emails showing Mr. Reynolds illegally funneled money through offshore accounts. We have also submitted a copy to the Economic Crimes Investigation Unit. We argue that Mr. Reynolds is unfit to parent Noah, and that this request is an attempt to divert attention from his criminal actions." Marcus shifted in his seat, panic flickering in his eyes. His lawyer stood again, voice trembling slightly. "Your Honor, these accusations are unrelated to the custody issue and should be addressed separately." Judge Harper looked at him, her gaze sharp. "I'll decide what's relevant, counselor. I will need time to review these materials. The court is recessed for 30 minutes. Maya exhaled deeply, as if she had just run a marathon. She turned to James and whispered, "Do we have a chance?" James offered a faint smile. "More than a chance, Ms. Jackson. Marcus has no way out." Ethan leaned toward her, his voice low. "You did it, Maya. I'm proud of you." She gave him a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, Ethan. If it weren't for you and Aisha—" "Don't," he interrupted gently, his eyes soft. "This is your strength. We just helped." 30 minutes later, the court reconvened. Judge Harper took her seat, her serious gaze sweeping the room. After reviewing the evidence, she began, "I find Mr. Reynolds' allegations against Ms. Jackson to be without merit. On the contrary, the financial misconduct outlined raises serious concerns about his character as a parent. The request for temporary custody is denied. Furthermore, due to the severity of the accusations, Mr. Reynolds' custody rights will be suspended until the financial investigation is complete." The courtroom fell silent, and then a soft exhale escaped from Maya's direction. Her eyes stung not from sadness, but from joy and relief. She had won. Noah would stay with her. She turned to James and hugged him, whispering, "Thank you." James smiled, patting her shoulder. "You earned it, Maya." Ethan stood, his eyes glowing as he looked at her. She stepped forward and embraced him tightly, feeling the warmth and strength in him. "We did it," she said, voice choked. "We did," he replied, placing a soft kiss on her forehead. Marcus sat motionless, his face pale, eyes vacant. His lawyer hurried to gather the documents, but Maya didn't look at them. Her thoughts were on Noah, how soon she'd hold him again. Outside the courthouse, autumn sunlight filtered through the trees, casting golden patches across the stone walkway. A small group of reporters gathered by the gate cameras flashing as Maya and Ethan emerged. "Ms. Jackson, how do you feel about today's victory?" one shouted. "Mr. Caldwell, does this mean a serious relationship is underway?" Ethan raised his hand calmly. "No comment today." He placed a hand on Maya's back, guiding her past the swarm and shielding her from the barrage of questions. Maya exhaled in the car, feeling like she had just escaped a storm. "I didn't expect that many reporters," she said, looking out the window. Ethan smiled, taking her hand. "They'll move on soon." "But Maya, you did the impossible. You protected Noah." She nodded, eyes bright. "I have to pick him up. I want to tell him everything's going to be okay." Maya stood at Noah's school gate, heart pounding as the final bell rang. Noah came running out, green backpack slung over his shoulders, his face lighting up when he saw her. "Mom!" he shouted, launching into her arms. Maya held him tightly, the rest of the world falling away. She said, "I have something to tell you," kneeling to meet his eyes. "I fought so you could stay with me. And I won. We'll always be together." Noah nodded, his eyes shining. "I knew you'd win, Mom. You're a superhero." Maya laughed, tears streaming down her cheeks. She took him to a nearby ice cream shop and bought him a chocolate cone, and they sat on a wooden bench laughing in the sun. Watching Noah eat his ice cream, Maya felt a peace she hadn't known in a long time. She had protected her son, and for the first time, she believed the future would be bright. Lincoln Park glowed on an autumn afternoon, with late-blooming cherry trees showing soft pink petals under the gentle golden sunlight. Children's laughter echoed from a nearby playground, blending with the rustling of leaves as the wind passed. Maya Jackson walked along the gravel path, holding hands with Noah, her 7-year-old son, with a radiant smile and a green backpack slung over his shoulder. Noah tossed a rubber ball into the air, trying to catch it, but it rolled away, making him laugh loudly as he chased after it. Beside Maya, Ethan Caldwell strolled in a relaxed fashion, his white shirt untucked from his trousers, his deep blue eyes lighting up as he watched Noah play. This scene, three of them together, on a peaceful afternoon, was something Maya once thought existed only in dreams. But now it was real. The courtroom victory last week, when the judge rejected Marcus's request and suspended his custody rights, had given Maya a sense of freedom she had never known. Thanks to Aisha's efforts, the media coverage shifted from slander to truth. Single mother wins, legal battle, exposes corrupt attorney. A piece in the Chicago Tribune praised Maya as a symbol of resilience, describing her as a woman who protected her son and stood up for justice. Maya felt pride and relief reading those words, and felt that her story was finally being told correctly. "Mom, look," Noah called, standing on a small hill with the ball in hand. "I can throw farther than Ethan." He hurled the ball, which soared over the grass and rolled near a tree trunk. Ethan laughed loudly, running after the ball and pretending to stumble to make Noah laugh. "You win this time, champ," he shouted, picking up the ball and gently tossing it back to Noah. The boy caught it, grinned brightly, and ran to Maya, hugging her tightly. "Well done, my boy," Maya said, ruffling Noah's hair. She looked at Ethan with gratitude in her eyes. He had become a part of their lives, not just as someone who supported her through the legal battle, but as someone who brought joy to Noah and her. They sat on a wooden bench under a cherry tree, while Noah ran off to play with the ball. Maya leaned against Ethan's shoulder, feeling his warmth. "I still can't believe it's over," she said softly. "Marcus, the headlines, the courtroom. There were times I didn't think I'd make it through." Ethan held her hand, their fingers intertwined. "But you did, Maya. You're stronger than you think. And you didn't do it alone." She smiled, watching Noah in the distance. "I know. You, Aisha, my mother. I don't know what I would have done without you all." She paused, her gaze thoughtful. "But Ethan, I want to look forward to it now. I want to rebuild, not just for Noah, but for myself." Ethan tilted his head, his expression curious. "What are you thinking about?" Maya took a deep breath, her voice full of resolve. "My startup. The educational app for underprivileged children. I want to expand it and bring it to more schools. I've put it off too long because of Marcus and the legal battles. Now I want to focus on my dream." Ethan smiled, his eyes glowing with admiration. "That's a brilliant idea. And you know what I want to help," he added quickly, not as an interfering billionaire, raising his hands as she started to protest, but as an investor. "I believe in your vision, Maya. Let me help you make it real." Maya looked at him, her heart pounding with joy and hope. She didn't want to rely on Ethan financially, but his offer wasn't charity. It was respect, a vote of confidence in her ability. "All right," she said, a smile spreading across her face. "But I lead the project. You're just the silent investor." Ethan laughed, pulling her into an embrace. "Deal, Jackson." Noah came running back breathless, hugging the ball to his chest. "Mom, Ethan, can we play soccer?" he asked, his eyes shining. Maya stood, taking Noah's hand. "Of course, sweetheart. But fair warning, Mommy's pretty good at soccer." Ethan stood too, pretending to challenge her. "Come on, I'll show you two who rules the field." They played on the grass, laughter echoing through the park. Maya chased after Noah, pretending to let him outrun her, while Ethan kicked the ball off course on purpose, making Noah burst into giggles. Watching her son so happy, Maya felt a deep sense of peace. She hadn't just survived the storm, but found the light not just in Noah, Ethan, and herself. That night, Maya sat in her small apartment, the desk lamp casting a glow over Noah's space-themed drawing on the wall. She opened her laptop and read an email from Aisha. "Your interview is live. People are calling you a hero. Call me when you're free. Maya smiled, typed a quick thank you message, and closed the laptop. She stepped into Noah's room, where he had fallen asleep with a book about galaxies open on his chest. She gently removed it, pulled the blanket over him, and kissed his forehead. "Good night, my son," she whispered. Looking at Noah, she felt a deep pride, not only because she had protected him, but because she had given him a life filled with love. Her phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. "Today was wonderful. Dinner tomorrow. Just the two of us." Maya smiled and texted back, "All right, Caldwell, but I'm picking the restaurant." She sat on the couch, eyes scanning the apartment. Noah's drawings, the worn-out rug, and a photo of her and her mother. This was her home, the place where she had fought and triumphed. But more than that, it was where she had found herself again, a mother, a founder, a woman who dared to love and to dream. Maya thought about the future expanding her company, having afternoons with Noah and Ethan, and the new challenges ahead. She wasn't naive. She knew life would always bring hardship, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. With Noah as her light, Ethan as her anchor, and her strength as her foundation, Maya knew she could face anything. She stood up, stepped out onto the small balcony of her apartment, and looked up at the starry sky. One star twinkled brightly as if winking at her. Maya smiled and whispered to herself, "We'll fly far, Noah, together."